Okay, this is how you can make a digital artwork using Adobe Photoshop. Hopefully you have downloaded Photoshop from Mr. Flaherty. If you haven't, please let me know and I can get him to send you the link. So we are going to go to Create New. We are going to go over to here. Obviously we can change the name to called Digital Art. We are wanting it to be in centimeters. And we want it to be A4. So A4 is 29 centimeters. 29.7 centimeters by 21 centimeters. We also want to change the pixels per inch. So this is set for a website image. We want it to be much higher because we want to print it. RGB and CMYK, if we were printing a big banner, we would probably go CMYK, but for this exercise we're just going to keep it as RGB. And then we're going to go create. What we're then going to do, hopefully we have already pre-taken our photos of some textures and a landscape. Donna Marie Robinson is a landscape artist, so I'm going to go File, Open. I'm going to try and find where my images are. I've got some images here, so I've got some bark. I'm going to open the lovely lake that looks outside. I'm going to open maybe this image of a brick or a rock that I took at home. And maybe this, which is a plant from the school. So now what I'm going to do, this is my base. This is what I'm going to be creating my digital art with. I'm going to change it to the paddles. I'm then going to grab my art or my photo and I'm going to bring it and drag it to my workspace. You can see that I've got my photo in my digital artwork and I've got two layers here. I'm then going to click on the next layer and drag this one over as well. And I'm going to do that for all the images that I have. I probably wouldn't have more than 4 or 5. You want at least a couple of texture images, but you do want to have something that is actually a landscape. I'm going to draw your attention to the layers over here. So at the moment we have a background layer and it has a lock on it. We actually want to get rid of this lock. We can either duplicate the layer and then delete that layer. If we leave the locked layer, it basically you can't do anything with it, so that's not so good. So we are going to make this so it's a full screen. Couple ways we can do it. We can go Edit and Transform. Transform is a great tool. You can do lots of different things. You can also press Control and T and that will bring your size to A4 and then I'm going to double click it. I'm going to do that for each of my layer. You might see that this layer has an eye, which means that this one is active. These ones are not. So I want to activate this one. And I also want to make sure that it is grey. That way I'm working on that particular layer. I'm just going to enlarge. If you don't press Alt when you are doing it, it'll get out of proportion. If that's the look you're going for, that's okay. But if it's not, make sure that you're pressing it. Actually, it does look like it stays in proportion, so you don't need to press Alt. And the last one. Alright, so now that I've got all my layers here, I can see that I have 4 different layers. I think for the top one, I would like to do a little bit of manipulation. So I want to take some of the background out. So what I'm going to do is use the magic wand and I'm going to press on it and it highlights an area and then I can delete that area. The only thing with magic wand is that sometimes if you press this, for example, it'll pick everything near it. I just want to delete a little bit of the background. I'll just remove that so you can see how much is being removed. Another way of doing it, and there's always many ways of doing things in Photoshop, you can use the magnetic lasso and then you just press delete. Another way is the polygonal. Maybe you don't like that particular stick, you can get rid of this bit. You're just pressing each time to make the I guess, selection, that's probably enough for me. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to start making my artwork. So I'm going to look at my layer settings. There's a whole heap of different ones that you can use. So some work better than others. Depends on what you've picked. Maybe I'll go the color burn. Really goes on the fact of your layers. So if you change the layer around, you can see that the artwork changes. It's just about what you find aesthetically pleasing. I think I'm kind of liking that. Maybe I'll just turn that one off and I might manipulate this one a little bit further. I just want to see what's going to happen. I think it's probably going a little bit far. Maybe I'll go the soft light. You can change the opacity, which means you can make it so you can see through it or not. I might leave it at that. I'm going to manipulate it a little bit further. Maybe I'm going to, I quite like that. Let's see what happens if I'm changing this particular layer. Doesn't look like it's doing a huge amount. Maybe I'll just change the order so you could make your digital artwork quite dark. You could make it a little bit bluer. There are obviously other things that you can do within Photoshop. You can adjust levels, you can change the curves, you can change the hue and saturation. You can also change the coloring. So if I was to be on a layer that would make much more of an effect, I could go over here, go to the color balance. If I change that, I could make it a lot darker or a lot bluer. Maybe going for a cool color palette or not. But basically, that's it. Go File, save your Photoshop file, and also File, Save As. You want to save it as a JPEG as well. The JPEG is what you're going to send me. Example 1. As far as doing backup for this, basically on all of those steps, you would be taking screen grabs. On the screen grab help sheet is an example of how to do that. So hopefully you've made a beautiful digital art piece, and I look forward to seeing your stuff. Any questions, please let me know.